Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ladies First on BNC. It's Monday, June 15th. I'm Laverne McGee.
And I'm Jane Marks, and we've got lots to talk about you and to everyone else. So glad that you decided to join us.
Well, let's start with the news. As you've been hearing, the cousin of Rayshard Brooks, who was shot dead by Atlanta police, is speaking out. Tiara Brooks says the only way to heal some of these wounds is through a conviction and a drastic change with the police department.
The trust that we have with the police force is broken. And the only way to heal some of these wounds is through a conviction and a drastic change with the police department. But honestly, true justice will never prevail because we will never be able to bring back Rayshard Brooks. He will no longer be able to return to this world nor to his family. However, again, if we stand together and united as one, there will be no more cases similar to Rayshard's. How many more protests will it take?
Well, when she speaks and she talks about her sense that how many incidents will it take, you know, Laverne, you and I have seen it, it's almost weekly now, where we see one incident after another. And, you know, I think back to the 60s when of course, I was, you know, we were sort of caught up in the civil rights, and we had thought we had come so far, and we haven't.
Yeah, this is a tough one. People are really concerned about the fairness, and it's becoming obvious now the way that certain people are treated compared to other people. Social media, you know, I'm always on it. There were comparisons to the fact, because this was at a Wendy's, of course, it's not the same situation, but the fact that, you know, this man was at a Wendy's in the drive-thru, fell asleep. You know, was
it's a benign situation, right? You're right.
Well, they're talking about, remember back in 2015, there was a young white male who shot 9 people in a church, a black church.
I remember that.
And on the way, there was a 16-hour manhunt, and on the way, when they finally arrested him, the police took him to Burger King to have a burger on his way to jail. It made huge headlines, and so people were making these comparisons, like, you know, a black man is shot dead, you know, for falling asleep at a drive-thru. You know, a mass murderer, a Caucasian male, is taken to Burger King to have a sandwich before he, you know, goes to jail. And he was convicted of that. 9 people died in that shooting.
I didn't know that story.
Yeah, that's trending, and it's really just to show people, you know, that the treatment for a small violation can turn into the loss of life. Compared to the way someone else is treated. Also, they were comparing it to the mass shootings in Parkland. There was, of course, a couple of years ago, a shooting on Valentine's Day where a young white male shot, you know, a bunch of kids at the school. And again, the way he was treated. So the comparisons of the way the justice system works,
uneven treatment
for some people as opposed to others. And of course, you know, with Wendy's burning down and so forth, just unbelievable chaos in Atlanta. And just moments ago, the mayor was speaking out saying that she is calling for immediate reforms, immediate investigations. She's, of course, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who has been really stepping up to the plate. In fact, some people say she might be a vice presidential candidate. Yeah, she spoke out just moments ago at a press conference calling for immediate action. Because she could not deal with what was happening in her city. She could not deal with the unrest and the injustices that she was seeing before her very eyes.
Well, 4-time Olympic gold medalist Lisa Leslie spoke out about injustice following the death of George Floyd. And now she has done that same thing after what happened to Rayshard Brooks. The Hall of Famer says, we've covered this topic time and time again, and it's time to take the blindfolds off.
This is our life. As Black people, we don't get to turn this off. Even me having this moment in time on this show, when we go off, it doesn't go off for us, because I have a Black husband who has to drive, who's out right now driving. I have a son who's outside shooting ball, and it just never turns off for us. And we're just asking America to take the blindfold off, if you will, and to see us that this struggle is real. We just lost Rayshard Brooks, that as we saw at the Wendy's. our life and the value of Black Americans' life is not the same as everyone else.
So also people were saying the way the police officers handled it, they had his driver's license, they had his car, he was running away. So they're saying, and he was shot in the back. Why are you
Several
shooting,
times.
Yeah, why are you shooting a man in the back when you know you've got him. You've got his car and his license. He can't get very far.
Right.
There were many police who were out that night, of course, because there's so much police presence due to protests and so forth. So there were many other police in the areas. They could have easily radioed, said, hey, lock down this area. We've got a guy running around. We're trying to catch. There are so many different options that were discussed of how that could have been handled, as opposed to, you know, 2 shots in the back that obviously killed him. You know, people talking about the way police act in these type of situations. And of course, the other side, people were saying, oh, well, he was drunk, he was asleep in the drive-through, whatever. That alone, if you're startled awake by police and you have been drinking, you're not going to make good decisions. So they already know that this man, you know, obviously is not going to be making good judgments because he was awakened out of his sleep and he had been drinking, as they say, allegedly. We don't know, of course, all the details, but this is what's being reported. So if those are the circumstances and you're a police officer who's been trained, wouldn't you think that, hey, we know that this guy's not thinking clearly, we need to, you know, really think through how we're going to deal with him?
Right. Well, you know, I think this is just one among many situations. It's a repeat of history over and over again in terms of how the police handle these situations and the judgment they use at the time of the incident. It's almost like they have permission to act from the gut and not in a measured, thoughtful way. You know, like you're analyzing the situation and you're breaking it down. In your head, you're very, you know, measured about how you're looking at it. And there seems to be a way of thinking that all of these choices that they're making are okay because they have the backing. Well, they've got the backing of their police unions, they've got the backing of their supervisors and so forth. And so that whatever choices they make, no matter how harsh, there's a sense that it's going to be taken care of. At least that's my feeling about it. And I just think all of that is going to change from here on out. It's just too many of these situations happening one right after another. So, Laverne, I agree with you. You know, the whole situation, how do you think through a situation like this with this kind of outcome?
Yeah, officers are trained for these type of things. I mean, this is not a situation where, you know, it was a civilian and they were scared or something like that. Officers are trained to handle these type of situations. And they have, you know, they're paired with either a veteran police officer or somebody like that. So you wouldn't think that you would have this type of knee-jerk reaction where you just, you know, you see a man with a taser and you pull out your gun.
Good. And
taser versus
more than
gun.
one time.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So these are all of the things that people are calling for police reform in this country. And of course they're saying defund the police, which that slogan isn't entirely accurate the way it's phrased. They're not talking about just completely, you know, not giving them money, but
they're talking about reform.
Right. Police reform.
Right.
And if you look at the budgets for the police department in these counties and cities and so forth, there are some places where the police budget is millions and millions of dollars, and in fact bigger than the educational budget for schooling in those areas. So if you're putting more money into policing and less money into your budget for education. And just, you know, normal city services, that tells you how much power the police have in some places. And so that's what people are looking at.
And a lot of places.
At the power that the police have in terms of being able to go to work, and we know they're facing danger, but if they make a mistake or they do something that is, you know, that they shouldn't be doing, they're not going to be punished. So these are all the issues that people are weighing in now, and that's why there's this drastic outcry, because people are really, they can't handle this anymore. Time after time, Black men are killed and there's no convictions. So it'll be interesting to see after this case. Now, again, we've got some very strong advocates on changing the police force, whether or not that will change.
Whether or not it will change. Well, still to come, Kanye West files trademark to start his own cosmetics line, and that story when we return.